You don't have to be a millennial to be socially savvy. We believe anyone can join Generation Social Media, and your journey starts now. This is the Generation Social Media Podcast by Chatterkick. All right, we're back with another episode of the podcast. Today, I have Beth Trejo with me. A lot of businesses are kind of reviewing their budgets and trying to come up with a more economical way to approach their marketing and social media. And so we've been discussing and trying out some are new, some are not so new ways to leverage social in a very free way. So all it takes is time, which I always think that this topic is funny, and because the platforms themselves are free, like everything that you can do on the platform is free. Publishing is free. Really, it gets into the paid side. But what we all know to be true is everything has become paid to play. And so we're going to talk about 4 strategies today that we have found that helps kind of break the brands through the noise without using paid. And it really is just using the tools that you have available in a very different way. So Beth, looking forward to talking about kind of 4 of the topics. The first one that we wanted to chat about is Messenger, and specifically Facebook Messenger, but they just made a big change that you can add Facebook Messenger to your website, and you can use it kind of as a chat feature, and people can chat customer service, new customers, without logging into Facebook, which I think is really huge. Before you had to log into Facebook. So that's a really cool update. But talk about how businesses can leverage this tool and to kind of achieve some of their business initiatives for free.
Yeah. So I think a lot of businesses are really trying to figure that out, right? Maybe they had some audience built organically that just isn't their right customers, or they're in a like B2B space and it's just a very unique audience that they don't feel like they're connected. One option is to use paid advertising and paid messaging to really push that into those people's news feeds. But that's why I think I really want businesses to flip the way that they're thinking about these social tools as this free technology served on a platter to you. And the way that you use it is really in your hands. And so I think the Facebook Messenger opportunity, especially the way that they're changing it, I mean, a lot of businesses are paying a lot of money to have these live chat functions on their website. And now some of them need some sophisticated live chat support, but a lot of businesses just need a phone line, right? That digital phone line that's on their website. And before you could do this, you could make it so there's a little bubble that kind of came up that says chat with us. And it was run through Messenger, but you had to log in to Facebook. And it would normally, if you're on a desktop, it's going to pull in whatever you're logged into. So for a lot of people, it wasn't a big barrier. But that was a barrier for some businesses that said, I just don't want to have to go through the social channels in the same way. I don't want people to have to log in. So this change has really turned it from put your Facebook Messenger on your website to use a free tool for chat that is just supported by Facebook. So I think that's a huge opportunity, and it's really easy, right? Isn't it just a piece of code that they can install?
Yeah. So it sounds complicated because it's from like Facebook developers, but it really is like you pick a page that you manage, and then they spit out a code and you copy and paste that. You can even customize the color of the chat bubble. And then you copy and paste that into your website. So obviously it kind of depends on how savvy you are with managing your own website, because there is like, you got to put it on the right place.
Right.
And you got to make sure that it's something that can be enabled on your site. But from a business perspective, I know we've had a ton of people ask, and I know we've tried a million different chat features too. Like there's a ton on the market. And like you said, there's some really fancy, cool ones that could really integrate well with your other system and kind of walk people through a process. But at the end of the day, like we're talking about free solutions, like this one is absolutely free. You drop it on your site. And not only is it really easy for customers to use on a phone or desktop, because let's be honest, a lot of people just don't want to talk on the phone anymore.
Right.
I know you and I have had this conversation probably because we're on social all the time, but like if we get into the situations where like it's customer service time, we're like, somebody chat, like I don't want to talk on the phone, somebody chat me. And so we both have like inboxed like businesses or like tweeted them way before we like decide to pick up the phone, because waiting on hold sucks. So,
Right.
but that's the same point on chat. If you are going to do this as a business, you need to make sure that you are responding to your messages on Facebook. So I suggest, if you have this on your site, to download the Facebook Pages app.
Right.
And use that app to be the one that like holds everything that's coming in as your business, and respond to everybody that comes. Because if you do have a chat feature on your site, Beth, don't you feel like people are expecting an instant response?
They are. And not only that, but the good news is you can set up some of those limitations. So like there's a way messages, I get it. You don't want to answer these messages in the middle of the night or even in the evenings. And a lot of businesses, again, if you're in the B2B space, people may be a little bit more forgiving if you give them an automatic, hey, we're not here right now, but we'll get back to you at 8 a.m. in the morning. Or
like send us your email or call, like send us your email, phone number, or like we promise we'll respond in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's just a matter. And then don't forget to respond, because that is, those things can get lost really easily if you don't make an effort to move it over to wherever you get that message and put it into kind of your project management or your list, whatever you have to do to make sure that that person gets responded to.
Yeah, I just think that tool is really cool to, again, like as a free way to engage with customers, potential customers, or really anybody on your site. So anything,
Cool.
any
Chalk it
last
up to
words?
the free.
Yeah.
No, I just think that businesses should try it. I mean, again, low risk, not a ton of time.
No, like
me,
there's really no setup either. I mean, it really is just like dropping it on your site. So if you put it on there, and like the amazing, craziest problem you would have is you have so many chats that you can't manage it. Like,
right.
Maybe if that's the case for you, it's time for you to look, like, if that really is turnkey solution for you, like maybe it is time to invest, or at least put some people on the platform to manage those messages until you can come up with a better solution. But definitely a really like easy, free thing to start that could be a game-changing experience on your website for anybody.
Right. All right. What's our next one?
We're going to switch platforms because I feel like we talk about Facebook a lot. We're going to switch platforms to LinkedIn. I have not used this feature, but I know you've done some reading on it. But the notify employees on LinkedIn, tell me about the feature. Again, along with the theme, it's 100% free.
Right.
And I know in other podcasts we've talked about the importance of getting your employees engaged on social, but talk to me about like the notify employees button, if you will, on LinkedIn.
So I think the first question that businesses, when they have bad audiences, and when I say bad, I just mean they're not qualified to be your customers or your prospects. And this is one of the biggest problems when people are like, social media isn't working for me. I'm not reaching.
Like a whole other podcast, by
right?
the way, like how we got an audience. We got a bad audience. Now what?
Yeah, no kidding. So, but it happens all the time, especially like if people have not put a concentrated effort to build the right people and connection with their pages. So, the first easiest way to make that change, that's 100% free, regardless of the platform, you can do it on any of the platforms, is get your employees involved. And when I say that, it sounds so much easier than it actually is, and I appreciate that fact. But there are ways that you can make it a little bit more easier to kind of serve up that content on a platter so that everybody can just share it. Like, have them share it. If they won't share it, I think that's the time to have a conversation, because it could be because, some employee engagement culture. There's a lot of reasons.
Or the content. Like, it could be a good indicator that the content just isn't that interesting. And if they're not willing to share that piece of content, then maybe it's time to readjust what you're saying and talking about. Like, or it's a whole other red flag and you need to have a business conversation anyways.
Right. So it's kind of like that. Just, you want your employees to be your cheerleaders because they're talking to your customers and they really are the foundation of your business. And so by putting content out and telling people to share it, like step one, if you cannot figure out how to use some of these tools and even this feature doesn't work for you, regardless, just use your internal chat system, use your email. I don't care. Just tell people, hey, I just posted something on Facebook, go share it. Because honestly, it gets noisy on those platforms and sometimes they just miss it. So step one is just make sure your employees know when you post, like in the moment, and then tell them to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy if you send them the link so they know exactly which one you're talking about. And we've talked about this again in another episode of like, have a session where you get everybody together so they know which page, and just have a follow party and get everybody on like the right accounts.
Yeah, because that's very challenging for some people, especially if your business name kind of gets lost in other business names. And they just don't want to take a, afternoon to start searching and liking and connecting. So just make it easy for everybody, regardless if it's your internal or external team.
Right.
So LinkedIn has this feature. It's not brand new, but it's fairly recent. And I don't know if it's 100% accessible on all pages, but it's called Notify Employees. So it's a button that you can check natively. You can't be using a third-party app, which is kind of a bummer, like scheduling app. But if you post on LinkedIn on your business page, you're an admin, you're posting a post to share out to the world, there's a button that you can hit Notify Employees, and it will give them on your page itself.
Okay.
Yeah. And it will send a notification to your employees that you may want to share this. Now, I have had some people have some tricks with this, like clients and businesses, that it's just not working. So 2 things we figured out. One, if you are an admin on the page, so maybe you have multiple people on your team as admins, it doesn't work. It doesn't give them that notification because they're already an admin. 2, sometimes it just doesn't work. So there is
technology.
A little technology. There's just a caveat with it that, it's not 100% foolproof way. And then the other thing to remember is you need to make sure that your employees are connected to the right page.
That's what I was going to bring up.
There's a lot of times where, for example, if I had my business name on LinkedIn called Chatterkick LLC, and Kelsey said she worked at Chatterkick, maybe LinkedIn didn't connect the 2. And so it's kind of tricky to know if it won't send you that notification.
Are they the same? Yeah.
Right.
Also,
so that's a big problem.
Just FYI, when people do that, it creates a LinkedIn page.
Yes, it does.
So like if I decide to like write in, like if Chatterkick doesn't pop up in like the list of organizations, or I'm not patient enough to wait for it to pop up, and I just write Chatterkick, or like I accidentally put a space, or I put like a period afterwards, like it's going to put that on my profile, and then it's going to auto create a business page. And I mean, we've gone through multiple profile claiming, merging. There's no platform that claiming and merging profiles is easy. So just so you know, like it might be a really good idea as a part of onboarding a new employee is to help them set up their LinkedIn page and like help them clean up their profile, and like, oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you a part of a business. Like, let's like flip the switch together and like find the right page, have them follow, like maybe that's a good like function for HR or whatever, is to like have them follow, like connect to all of us on LinkedIn or whatever sources you have. I know some organizations have like internal Facebook groups or things like that, like connecting them to the profiles and those information sources will definitely alleviate some of the like duplications that happen later on. But like you said, it's only going to notify employees that are listed like and associated to the right business. And I've seen like such a mess of that lately because LinkedIn's been around for a while and they didn't really have like a very good system to say like, wait a second, is it this one or this one? And I feel like all of these rogue pages are out there and it's so complicated to merge.
Yeah. So how would you know if you're connected to the wrong page? First of all, view your profile, your personal profile, like as Beth Trejo, right? As a visitor, and then click on the place that you work and see, does it go to your business page, the company that you work for? It's a company page, or does it go to a different one? Like that's an easy way to check. And if it goes to the right company page, you're good to go. That notify employees should work. Again, it's not foolproof, but
it's free though. I mean, like you get what
it's free, right? Yeah, exactly. And if it does work
for the people, like, I mean, that's still better than none.
Right, exactly. So, and I think just what you were saying, that's so critical. And I want to take a moment and really help businesses understand that. The onboarding and offboarding time of employees is so critical to where you integrate social media. And I think having that conversation of this is how you can connect with everybody. You're a supported team member. Here's everybody's LinkedIn accounts. Here's our page. This is, just the same as this is our intranet and this is your workstation. Getting them in that mix. And then in the same like place, you need to make sure that, not that you disconnect them from all the personal people and accounts, but you do want to make sure that all admin access has been removed, make sure that they're fully logged out of their social accounts that they may have access to. So that is really important. I think it gets missed a lot in businesses.
I think the access thing is just, it's so critical for like, don't give the keys over and not like check to make sure that they're not taking the keys with them. Like you would change the locks if they like took their key with them, or if you found that out. Anyways, so we talked about Messenger, we talked about notify employees on LinkedIn. The next one is outreach, and I know that we've talked about this in the past, but to give context again of like how this is a powerful free tool, let's kind of talk about some ways that businesses can leverage right now, while maybe some of their initiatives are changing, or at least their budgets are changing and their time spent is being shifted around a little bit. How would a business use outreach, and kind of break down outreach into like the most simple version of like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So think of outreach, and this is a really good opportunity for people that have had their trade shows get completely wiped out and canceled, and they're flailing and they're like, what do I do? I'm in B2B. I've never used my social channels before. Now what? One of the easiest things that you can do, and honestly, it is so critical and important, is go out and go network, right? And that's what outreach kind of is. It's a way to get out in front of your customers, in front of your prospects, and start shaking hands and adding value, right? You're not going to just, I think that's the difference between what people think is like, oh, I need to go on social media and just like see if they'll buy my stuff. And regardless of what type of business you're in, that doesn't feel right on social media.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that is kind of like everybody's first gut instinct is like, okay, you want me to go reach out to people? If I sell power washers, I'm going to go like, who's talking about power washers? Be like, have you tried the 90XL5? Like, this thing is amazing. And nobody's going to be like, very few people are going to be like, wow, what a great like engagement.
Yeah. I think that it's just like, it's such a misstep on how we actually interact as humans. And that's what you really need to think about in social media. Like, I'm walking into a room, I'm going to go find somebody that looks friendly. I'm going to shake their hand, ask them how they're doing. Maybe they'll ask me how I'm doing. And then we're going to start a conversation. That's what outreach is. And it's so simple, but for some reason we have such a hard time as businesses to figure this out. And so my recommendation is, especially if you've had this kind of happen to you where all your events and your marketing has gotten tossed upside down, go get your customer list, like the people that you interact with, right? We know that the more touch points you can have with customers, the more likely they're probably going to stay on as your customer, and the happier they're going to be. That's pretty consistent across industries. So go make them happy. Go find them, go connect with them, person to person, not logo to logo, and go see how they're doing. Comment on their banana bread pictures, right? Like, give them actual value. Don't be superficial. Like, I think it's really important to be authentic, but most of salespeople are probably not even connected to their customers online, to social channels, person to person. And if you're nervous, you don't want them seeing your Facebook personal account or your Instagram account, like, I think we got to get over that, because we're going to be selling and we're going to be forming relationships.
That's a part of the gig. Like, I feel like personal branding kind of gets this weird like stigma of like, but your personal brand is separate from like your actual personal interests, and you try to create this like fake profile. But really, like the best salespeople are authentic, and it's an extension of like, I would still come and talk to you if we were both from Hinton. Like, I would still come and talk to you about Hinton, and we would do a dance before we'd ever even talk about like getting into business or anything like that. So I think it's just important to extend that and just like make that flip in your mind of like, your profile is actually a way more like your personal profile, and not like Beth Trejo realtor profile, like Beth Trejo's like real profile where you're posting your kids, and like, if you want to exclude content, do that, whatever. But like, you reaching out to other businesses with your personal profile makes such a huge impact versus Beth Trejo's CEO page.
Yeah, I think, and again, if people put the amount of passion that they have about not using their personal profiles as they did in just learning the settings,
lean into it.
because
Yeah.
I promise you, you can hide your vacation pictures and bathing suits on your, I mean, again, I would never put anything on social media that you would feel completely mortified. I don't care what it is, right? On your personal profile, on your business page, like don't put anything. But I get it. Sometimes like, you know, pictures of your family or your kids, you don't want out in the world, and 100%
Or
appreciate
just like
that.
stuff that people tag you in multiple times
Right.
this summer.
Yeah.
My sister has tagged me in some stuff. I'm like, I look like an ogre in that. Can you not? Like, you're clearly taking pictures of somebody else.
Right. Exactly. So, but you can just make those posts private, or just change the way that you're using your privacy settings on, especially Facebook has probably the most opportunity to really focus on the profile and just privacy areas. So,
So you kind of merged our 3 and 4 with like
yes.
outreach and customer engagement, but you said something earlier that I kind of was like thinking of a strategy. So you just talked about using your customer list and finding those people on social and engage with them. Anytime that any like, we have a ton of softwares, a software rep has connected, and not just LinkedIn, but like a software rep that I've worked with a lot, like connects with me or follows me on Instagram and starts commenting on my stuff. I'm like, oh, these guys are the best.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
they care about me as a human. Like, it's such a game changer. But earlier you said trade shows got canceled this year, right? A lot of those trade shows, though, if you ask them, they'll give you the list of people that were going. Use that list. Or
Yeah, right.
vendors. Like, I think that this is a huge opportunity to say, like, this is a super bummer that this event didn't happen. Maybe you should just send an email out to that list saying like, hey, do you guys want to just like connect? Do you want to
Yeah.
meet up? But you can actually take those already existing customer lists, your potential customer list of who was going to go to that or who's interacting on those pages, and go find those people.
Right.
I just think that that's like a huge opportunity, again, for free.
Right. So let's say, I think people need to break this down a little bit. So I did merge 3 and 4. So one is reaching out to them, like your current customers for like customer engagement. And the other is, that's outreach, we call that. And then the other is, you know, trying to just engage with them, right? And really
Right.
form those real relationships. So businesses, okay, I want to do that. Now, how do I actually start? So the first is you search, and it's kind of a pain.
Oh, it's
And if you,
definitely time. All of these things are, I mean, all of these things are time consuming. I mean,
yes,
you're really like switching budget for time, but right now it seems like it's easier to find 15 minutes than it is $1,500.
right. And the good news is once you get a system down, it can become way more efficient. So what you need to do is you need to create just a checklist, and you need to do like 5 things, right? Every single day, 15 minutes. Once you get kind of in the groove is all it should take. But the beginning of finding the right people and understanding how to search the social channels is tricky, and it's work. Especially if you have customers or client names that are very generic and there's a million of them, right? You may not be able to find everybody, 100% get that, but you may be able to find some of them, and you may be able to connect with them. And
But can you, so I've realized this in our last 8 years together, but you and I are pretty creepy searchers. And so
yes,
you and I can find people really easy. Can we talk about some of the combinations of things that we would search to
yes,
try to find somebody? Like,
yes.
what's your first, like, literally,
So,
what would you type in? If you were
so the,
looking for, like, let's use like one of our team members, for example, like Chris Severn.
yeah,
Tricky because Chris uses Christopher on everything.
yes.
So how would you find Chris?
So the funny thing is I don't start in the platforms. I actually start with Google, because Google has a better search algorithm. And I would search Chris Severn first. Chris Severn, Facebook. Just put his name in there. And then I would start, see what I find. If I didn't find that, then I'll start putting his variations of his name. And if there's a unique spelling, and I start with Google in most cases. You can find people using Facebook, and especially if it's a regional and you have if it's somebody in Sioux City, chances are you're going to have connections to them. So using the social platforms to search is easy. But if you're looking at national contacts, that gets tricky. the other thing you can start doing is putting their business name behind their first name. And then again, keep the social platforms that you're trying to do. You can also use their email. Sometimes
so like
people
you would search like Chris Severn, Facebook, Sioux City.
yeah,
Chris
or
Severn,
Chatterkick.
Facebook, Chatterkick, Sioux City. Like you would just start like tacking these
Yep.
on. Well, right. Okay.
But then what you need to do also is you need to have some place, some home where you're storing this information so that if you get a new sales rep, they don't have to do the exact same thing because you already know all their handles at that point. And again, this isn't a matter of like stalking people out. This is just connecting to people that you probably already know or you should have some commonalities between.
Or even
right?
start with the people that you talk to the most or you have the most engagement. Because then when you see their picture, you're like, oh, I know that's Bob. Like, I know him.
Yeah. And a lot of times we just haven't connected to our customers, even on LinkedIn. I mean, that's an easy one, right?
So people kind of expect that.
Yeah. So the other thing that is an easy way, again, on the trade show side, is use hashtags, like search the hashtag, especially Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. Those hashtags for trade shows are very common, and it's usually the year. So, AMA 2020. It's not a right one, but
it's a trade show somewhere.
Yes, right. But whatever acronym, they'll usually have the year behind it. And sometimes these virtual event or trade shows are going virtual and they're using those new hashtags. So people are adapting to that really, really quickly. So that's a good way to find people that are attending or vendors at the trade show, and definitely something to do. Again, these are all free. They take time. You need some sort of a systematic approach if you're really going to start streamlining this stuff, but it's available and it's free and it's, it's super effective.
And these are things that you can just like dip your toes in, and then you can find out like a full system. I mean, it's amazing when you can, you know me, I don't like love Excel docs or anything, but like I would start with an Excel doc of like putting a list of people that I find or putting ways that we've used some of these new tools that we've talked about. But then like I would then equally spend time on figuring out how I could connect it with HubSpot so that I don't have to, like HubSpot is our CRM, but so that I wouldn't have to continue to put it on to the doc. Or I know that, we also big fans of Sprout Social. You can create like different profiles in there too. But at least from a very like, everybody can use whatever tools they have, like Excel or a doc of some sort to at least document like where you are at. And then you can get fancier as you go along.
Yeah. And I think that if you're not putting these people, whoever the outreach is going to, if it's your marketing person, if it's your intern, whoever it is, if they are not having a direct connection to your CRM, to your sales, you're missing the boat, because that's why your social media isn't working, is because you got someone doing something over here that has no idea the people that you're talking to over here. And again, we're talking to people. So oftentimes it's not like there's these logos running around and it's easy to see who works where.
Well, even if you're talking to local business pages, there's still a person managing that.
Right. So
often we just hear outreach in this, like, we're just building brand awareness and like getting our page on other pages. But it's like you could, and there's nothing wrong with that. I definitely think you should do that. But why would you build brand awareness with somebody, or why would you invest in brand awareness with somebody who wouldn't be able to purchase from you or wouldn't be able to support your business or potentially be employed by you? I don't know. I just think that there's a smaller net that you could use that could just be a higher quality. Okay, so to recap, we talked about 3-ish, 5-ish tools that are 100% free, take a little bit of time. Consistency is still going to be the key here on all of them. But the first one was using Facebook Messenger as a chat feature on your website and a way to connect to customers. Biggest tip here is to make sure that you're responding to those customers or putting those away messages to give clear expectations on when people should expect a response. Second one, notify employees on LinkedIn. Beth, what's the best, like the number one takeaway you'd say for that one?
Don't forget to tell your employees when you're posting, and also check that button.
The button. To the right business, right?
Right.
The third, fourth, and fifth one is outreach, but like third one, just basic outreach. Best tip, is to be strategic about it and block 15 minutes at least every day to just do it consistently. Let's call it like 3A, using your customer lists. And Beth, like, what's your tip on, like, we talked a little bit about tips on how to find them, but best tip on what to comment?
I think I would just start with, hey, how's it going? Like, I mean, very simple. Celebrate them. Whatever they're doing online, celebrate that. Like, cheerlead them on. People love compliments, and add value to them as much as you can.
I mean, you can really see on their profile what they're into. Like, if I was trying to get your attention, I
talk about wine.
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm gonna go there then. So you post like recipes, cocktail recipes. I would say like, oh my gosh, that's a really good recipe. Have you ever tried this thing?
Right. Start the conversation.
And you would immediately be like, no, but have you tried this thing? And
right.
It's a completely authentic conversation. And then 3B is using and leveraging like trade show and events and doing outreach to those specific audiences.
Yep.
Which kind of, what would be your first strategy that you feel like would be the easiest with that?
I would take, most people have some sort of a prospect list and like do your hot lead list or whatever companies you're like most likely to close, use those, as well as kind of bake it into your sales process where when you get a new lead, they're the hand raisers. They already said they want to be your customer. Go in and connect with them.
Cool. All right. 4 free things. So there's really no reason not to use them.
Exactly.
Or try them. There's no reason not to try them. If you get stuck, let us know. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Beth.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
That's it for this episode of Generation Social Media Podcast. If you had an aha moment or just a ha-ha moment, I would be so grateful if you leave a review with the moment you loved most. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the next episode, fill out the form on generationsocialmediapodcast.com.